If you've been practicing darts for a while now and you care about your game and you care about your improvement, but it feels as though you're just stuck or you're not really getting any better, or it feels like your improvement has stalled, then stick around because this video is for you. Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. So this video is not about drills, it's not about practice, it's not about averages, it's not about how to train and get better. It's about improvement itself and why it often feels like we're not getting any better when in reality, we are, if we keep putting the time in. So there's one specific way in which darts is absolutely brutal, and it's that results and outcomes are binary, whereas improvement and skill lives on a spectrum. So let me put that in real darts terms so you know what I'm talking about. Let's imagine 6 months ago, you went for double 20, and you were 2 inches away from the double 20. And now, today, you throw the same dart again, and you're a couple of millimeters out. You're a lot closer, but both times your score is 0. You're not getting the double. That can feel frustrating, and you're getting the same outcome when in reality your throw and your shot or aim has gotten closer to your target. And that is the case for darts in general. Darts is a game of averages. And when I'm talking about averages, I'm not talking about your scores average, although it kind of is, but it's about how much closer you get on average to your target in general. And we don't see that. We just see hit or miss. We don't really see the distances that we're closing in on our target. The scoreboard and your outcomes treat these two things, whether you're 1 millimeter away or whether you're 2 inches away, exactly the same. That's one key thing that really starts to break your perception of your improvement. And that's just one part of why improvement often feels invisible. So what are the other reasons? The next reason is, as you get better at darts, the amount of improvement required to really feel it gets compressed more and more. So at the beginning, as you get started on your journey and you're early on in your darts game, you might jump up 10 points on average, or you might get a lot better quite quickly. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit. It's a bit like going to the gym with like newbie gains, that sort of thing. It's not necessarily that darts becomes impossible at a certain point, but it gets harder to improve. It gets harder to squeeze extra gains out of your game. Players who are just getting started have got a lot of easier gains to get. So imagine you get up to like 70 average, it's gonna be harder to get from a 70 average to a 75 average than it would be a player who is 35 average who wants to get to a 40 average. That's just the way it is. And because of this, as we keep getting better and we keep improving, progress often feels less visible. But that's not the only thing. And that's not the only reason why it feels very difficult to perceive improvement. The next thing is something that I like to think of as cognitive lag. So let's imagine you jump up in skill. Let's just say, and I'll put a number on it just to make it a bit easier, but it doesn't always translate to numbers, but I'm going to put a number on it. So let's imagine you are a 45 average and you jump up to 55 average for a day or two. Well, what happens a couple of days later when you sort of drop back down a little bit? You go from being a 55 average, which you were throwing for a few days, down to a 47, 48 average. Well, it's going to feel horrible. What was normal yesterday now feels expected the following day. And instead of thinking I've gone from 45 to 47 average and I've improved and got better, it's very difficult to look beyond dropping from 55 to 47. And that's one of the many cognitive issues that comes with improvement in this game, is it's very difficult to perceive and there's a lot of traps to fall into from a mental perspective. Improvement is still happening, it just doesn't feel like improvement. It feels like regression, and that's the most dangerous thing. So let's talk about something else. You might have played darts on an app before, and you might have seen a heat map of your darts in that game. Now this is a great graph, but unfortunately it's not something that we get for the entirety of our darts game. Yes, we get little slivers of information when we're playing against a bot in an app, but we don't get to see that for every single dart we throw. And we can't really comprehend it with the brain, and the reason is we can't picture this as a human, we can't store it and recall it on demand, and we can't see it over the sample of hundreds of thousands of darts, which is ultimately what improvement's going to be. It's not going to be hundreds, it's not going to be thousands, tens of thousands. It's going to be hundreds of thousands of darts if you're committed to playing the game. And unfortunately, I've not seen a way where we can get a scatter graph or some sort of average heat map of your darts throughout the year, or throughout the years, or throughout hundreds of thousands of darts. If we had some graph that showed us 6 months ago or a year ago versus now, it would probably show improvement. But that's not something that we can even begin to comprehend visualizing as humans. It's just impossible. Like I say, we get little slivers of it in apps, and that's great. But unfortunately, at this moment in time, when I'm recording this, maybe AI will accelerate this sort of thing, but we don't have that for the entirety of our game. So that scatter graph, or that lack thereof, is going to be a big piece of missing information that we don't have. And the worst thing is, in short bursts, this variance, which we would love to be able to like zoom out of and see in the form of this average graph, is not there. And the short-term versions of this can be misleading. And the short-term versions of this are ultimately what stick in our brain, which takes me on to the next point, which is that the losses and the negative stings more than the good sticks with you. Now, you might have heard something before about a cognitive bias where something negative will be twice as memorable as something positive. So you might have two outcomes that are proportionately similar, one's good, one's bad, but the bad outcome is much more likely to stick in your brain. And I think in darts, that's especially prevalent because you might play over a week or 2 or 3, and I think in general, we're kind of engineered as humans to probably remember the bad things more than the good things. That's just the way it is. So that's another reason why when we're thinking about improvement, it becomes more difficult to see because we just generally tend to remember the bad and the negative. We don't really focus enough on the good or remember the good. It's harder to track that, and it's harder to keep it in mind when things are going badly. And I think that can lead to a danger in our game where all of these things that I've just discussed combine and become harmful to your game, because that's the point where you might start to rip apart your throw, or you might start to stop practicing because you're not feeling good about your game, or you don't want to push yourself to try and improve anymore because you feel as though you're just going nowhere, you're not improving, you're not getting better, this is all pointless, all this sort of stuff. It can start to creep into the brain, and that's a very real danger that not enough of us recognise, I don't think. We often have a process in place that's good, but it's very easy to go off that track because of all these kind of things coalescing in the brain, or because of all these things stopping us from seeing the progress. And progress is just naturally very difficult to see when it's fairly minute and it's fairly small, and it's often going to be. You're just accumulating a tiny bit at a time. And yes, there's going to be variance along the way, but we need to just kind of do our best to take solace in the good and the small slivers of improvement. And that's my key takeaway from this video, is that when progress becomes this hard to see, it's usually because it's happening at a level that's very hard for the brain to track. And the bigger danger isn't getting stuck in the rut that you might perceive yourself to be in and reacting to this distorted signal. It's about quietly unraveling because you're misperceiving all of this and confusing it for, I'm going nowhere, I'm not getting anywhere as a player, I may as well stop, or I may as well rip up my game and change things. Do try to bear all this in mind, because you've probably made more progress than you think, even if you can't necessarily see it right now. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I really, really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, whack the subscribe. I don't know where it is, it's somewhere, but that would be a massive help to me. Thank you. Have a fantastic day, night, evening, whatever it may be, and I will catch you for the next one. Bye-bye.